Keeler, California, located on the east side of Owens Lake in the Owens Valley, east of the Sierras, and the west side of the Inyo Mountains. In this upcoming episode, we're going to learn about its history as a freighting hub. Good morning. Today we're going to go check out a place called Keeler. It's in California on the east side of the shores of the Owens Lake. And originally was there in the early 1860s, and it was established to process ore and deliver goods from the Cerro Gordo mine up in the White Mountain Range. And we're going to go check it out today and see what we can find. I think there's a few people that live there, but mostly a long history. And let's go check it out. I got my travel coffee for the trip. Let's go make a video. In 1865, silver was discovered at Cerro Gordo, high in the Inyo Mountains above Owens Lake. To tell the story of Keeler, California, we got to step back and start at Swansoe, California. Swansoe, California was founded in 1870 by James Brady, who had recently assumed operation of the Owens Lake silver-lead furnace and mill. The main reason for its existence was to house workers from the nearby silver mining operations and those who were operating the smelting works. The furnace and mill was built by Colonel Sherman Stevens in 1869 and was in use up until March of 1874. The Lone Pine earthquake of 1872 damaged the smelters at Swansoe and lifted the shoreline, which rendered the Swansoe Pier inaccessible by Owens Lake steamships. This resulted in most of the smelting business moving to Keeler 1 mile to the south. This was the beginning of end of Swansoe as people began moving away to follow the work. A summer flood in 1874 severely damaged the nearly deserted town and marked the end of Swansoe. There isn't much left to see today in Swansoe, other than a stone monument, a crumbling wall or two, and a few bits of silver-lead furnace and a stone cabin, which may have once also been a stagecoach stop. In 1880, a new mill was constructed at Holly by the Owens Lake Mining and Milling Company for processing silver ore from the Cerro Gordo Mines in the mountains to the east. A town was laid out by the company agent Julius Keeler, for whom the town of Holly was later renamed. The Cerro Gordo Mines, high in the California's Inyo Mountains, were operating at full capacity in 1870. The silver-lead ore was conveyed down the rugged mountain by cable and buckets to smelters located in Keeler. At that time, before the Los Angeles Aqueduct was built, Owens Lake was full to the brim from the abundant waters of the Owens River. One of the early pioneers to Owens Valley was a gentleman that went by the name of Colonel Sherman Stevens. He arrived in Owens Valley in 1865. That was a year before Inyo County was even formed. As early as 1867, he owned a mine at the new silver-lead camp of Cerro Gordo. But like so many other Western enterprisers, Stevens' main contribution was not digging for metal, but in providing supplies. As early as 1872, nearly all the pinyon pines and junipers in and around Cerro Gordo had been cut and devoured for mine timbers and furnace fuel. An army of woodcutters, charcoal burners, and muleteers had used up the local supply. At this point, Sherman Stevens cast his eyes across Owens Valley to a new and almost inexhaustible supply of timber in the high Sierras. Stevens and his sons approached the Owens Lake Silver-Lead Company to secure a loan of $25,000 for building a trail, sawmill, and 12-mile flume from Cottonwood Canyon in the Sierras to the shore of the Owens Lake. In June of 1873, the sawmill and the flume became operational. Colonel Sherman Stevens reorganized his operation as the Inyo Lumber and Coal Company in April of 1876. By June of 1877, Stevens had spent $64,500, equivalent to about $2.1 million today, to place his enterprise in full operation. He'd send lumber down his 13-mile flume. From there, he would freight it over to his charcoal kilns, and logs were reduced to charcoal, and then he hauled in scows across the lake by the Molly Stevens. The Cottonwood charcoal kilns stand as a reminder of the tremendous impact of the gold rush on forests and landscapes. These beehive-shaped structures are located alongside what used to be Cottonwood Creek and a part of the larger story of Owens Lake before its water was diverted to nourish the Los Angeles basin. Today, Cottonwood Creek is long gone, and most of what is left of the lake is a dry lake bed. Through the 1870s, Keeler, or Holly, was merely a freighting terminal and wasn't much of a town. That changed with the arrival of Julius Keeler in 1879. The mines of Cerro Gordo were experiencing a resurgence in 1880, and Keeler made plans to build one mill and laid out a town site. The mill opened in 1881 and began processing low-grade ore from the Cerro Gordo Mines. In 1882, Keeler invested heavily in refurbishing the Bessie Brady steamship, only to have it consumed by fire shortly after the work was completed. This marked the end of freighting by steamer on Owens Lake. Keeler would again become a freight hub in 1883 with the arrival of the Carson and Colorado Railroad. Mining in the area waned throughout the 1880s and 1890s, and both the mill and the railroad struggled to stay in business. In the middle part of the first decade of 1900, there was a renewed interest in the mines around Cerro Gordo. In 1906, a smelter was built at Keeler to again process low-grade silver ores. The year 1907 would see the first interest in zinc mining in the district. In 1908, a new zinc smelter was constructed at Keeler, and an aerial tram was built connecting the mines of Cerro Gordo with the new smelter. In 1915, an improved tram was built, and the tram towers from the second build, complete with cables and an occasional bucket, can still be seen above the road to Cerro Gordo. Mining in Cerro Gordo experienced several more periods of activity that kept Keeler alive through the 1920s. By 1933, the mines at Cerro Gordo finally shut down permanently, and Keeler would no longer be a milling or smelting town. Starting in 1913, water from the Owens Valley was diverted into the Los Angeles aqueduct, causing Owens Lake to dry up by 1926. Soda processing from the dry lake became an industry in Keeler that would help it survive the closing of the Cerro Gordo mines. Soda continued to be an important commodity in the area. The Inyo Development Company produced until the 1920s, and the Natural Soda Products Company operated its own plant south of the town from 1916 until about 1954. Ultimately, the mineral industries could not sustain Keeler forever, and in 1960 the railroad terminal closed. In 1961, the tracks were removed and Keeler's role as a freighting center came to an end. Today, Keeler is a town of a few dozen people and no operating businesses. According to the 2020 U.S. Census, the population stands at 71 people in Keeler. Keeler, like so many other old towns in the West, is not anything what it once was. A town with hundreds of people, a thriving economy, and a beautiful lake. Today, the lake is dry and has been dry since the early 1920s, when water was diverted to Los Angeles from the Owens River. There are no businesses open today in Keeler, and there's only a handful of people that live there. And the Keeler post office is still in existence today. This is a photo looking at the Keeler Volunteer Fire Department. I wouldn't swear that it's manned at this particular moment, but there it is. This is a wall that was part of a grocery store, I believe. You can see the advertising on there. It says famous ABC beer. This area right here was known as Keeler Beach. It was a local swimming pool with all kinds of great facilities. This was a sign at Keeler Beach, the way it looks like today. I read that the last time you could see the writing on there was about 2012. That's what this photograph shows. When I got into the grounds and I looked around, you can see the standing water here. Doesn't look very inviting today. However, at the early 1920s, this was quite a center of activity. You can see the photos here from that time era. There was a lot of activity at the Keeler Beach Club. When I was driving around Keeler, I found it so interesting to see so many buildings in various states of abandonment. It was hard to tell which buildings were actually currently being occupied and which ones were abandoned at this time. Up on the porch here, you can see some of the old furniture. Makes you wonder how long ago somebody was using that or sitting in those seats and chairs. I'm having a hard time determining the years of operation and when this facility was originally built. It was owned by the Sierra Talc Company, but I really don't have any dates, but I found the building outstandingly beautiful and interesting. I found this to be an interesting building. You can see it's kind of leaning, but it looks like it's been several different things since its existence. The name on it says Keeler Market, but it also says that it was the field home of HSD Geology. Here's an older photo of this same building with the advertising of Coors, and I think it says Cool Cigarettes on it as well. I was able to peek inside. There was a hole in one of the windows, and you can see it's quite a mess, so who knows how long ago this was actually vacated. This is the Keeler Old Schoolhouse. I couldn't find any dates of when the original construction happened, but it was a really outstanding and beautiful building that I saw here. And the only photos I could find are ones that show class gathering together for photos in 1934, and another picture showing one of the teachers or the principals standing in front of the schoolhouse in 1959. This is one of the most beautiful and notable buildings in Keeler. It is the Keeler train station. I read where the original depot built by the Colorado and Carson Railroad was built in the 1880s, early 1880s. I'm not sure this structure is that old, but anyhow, it's a beautiful building. I mean, you can only imagine at one time the amount of traffic and how busy it was with passengers and loading up cargo and ore to be processed in other locations. It's a beautiful place. I was fortunate enough to be able to peek inside. You see, this looks like some kind of a kitchen with the stairs up to the upper level. Looks like there was dishes piled up or organized along with silverware. The post office here in Keeler is open, and it seemed to be the only place with activity. As you head up the road to the Cerro Gordo Mines, you'll see off there in the distance, I found to the right, a gigantic rock wall. This is what remains of the smelter of the Four Metals Company. In August of 1907, a high grade of zinc was found in the Union Mines in Cerro Gordo. By the fall of 1907, the Four Metals Company acquired the Great Western Ore and Reduction Company's holdings in Cerro Gordo and Keeler. A 200-ton smelter was erected east of Keeler. The first aerial tramway to Cerro Gordo was built there as well, connecting the smelter to the mines with a capacity of 50 tons a day. Although the tramway had many breakdowns, it was a great improvement over both the wagons and the steam traction engines for ore transportation up and down the yellow grade road. This 200-ton-a-day smelter was put into operation in December of 1908. 3 work shifts took place each day to operate the Four Metals Company smelter, with 20 men working at each shift. The mill continued to operate between 1911 and 1914. Records show by August of 1921 the mill was producing 590 tons of shipping ore. As 1922 came to a close, the Cerro Gordo Mines had a deficit of $414,000. That's equivalent to about $7.7 million today. And by January of 1923, the mill was closed. I would imagine soon after that, the mill was dismantled and salvaged, perhaps. Keeler, California. I thoroughly enjoy these trips. Get out there in the nice wide open areas. Check out the history. Keeler has quite a big history that starts back in the early 1880s, as it was created primarily to serve the mines up in Cerro Gordo and to process the ores, and from there travel most of it down into LA. Owens Lake was a big part of Keeler back in the day, before Los Angeles Department of Water and Power diverted all the water out of the Owens River into Los Angeles. It was quite a full lake. They even used it to ferry ore across the lake, which saved many, many days of transport and freighting down to LA. You guys get a chance, go out and check these places out. They're a lot of fun. They're easy to get access to. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos, and we'll see you guys next time on the next video. Thanks for watching.